Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys a review of Descent by Orbit Culture. So unfortunately you guys didn't get to see us in video form talk about our first impressions of this album. We were a bit busy that day, however, here we are to talk about our review after listening to this album constantly throughout the week. And I guess I'll start and say that I enjoyed the album. In our first impression, I loved it. I put it on like, whoa, what was that? What was this? Oh my gosh. So excited to listen to it even more and more. And there was a lot of stuff I still did enjoy throughout the week. One of which being Vultures of North, which is one of my favorite tracks on the album. Every time it starts, it's like, oh yeah, here we go. This is the energy. And that's a video we reacted to as well, which was a while ago. We didn't even realize it was part of the album when we checked out From the Inside, which was what we thought was the first single from the album. But I think that's just when they announced the album.
Yeah.
But Vultures of North is actually on the album, and it's an awesome song, and I loved it. Black Mountain, now that's a song I love. The build on that song and all of the energy in it, like overall, it feels like an epic song. And honestly, I kind of wish that Descending, which is the intro track, bled into it. Because it's this big orchestral thing, ta-da-da, there it is. And then Black Mountain starts. I wish if it bled into it, it really felt like it's growing. But the fact that it doesn't, like sometimes I would just skip Descending because I wanted to hear Black Mountain that much. It's like I'm starting the album, I'll just start with Black Mountain. Because honestly, you could probably start an album that way and it's fine.
I think they should have.
It's not like the first track was really that necessary, to be honest. If it bled into Black Mountain, it would make more sense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do that. You got like small notes I made. Undercity, which is not really one of the tracks that really super stood out. It was still pretty good, but it's got this interesting thing where you got this slow crushing groove, but then when they hit the chorus at the end of the song, the drummer plays the double kick, which he doesn't do earlier in the song, and that's a really interesting thing. And I guess we can use that as a segue to talk about the drumming on this album, which is one of the best performances of the year. Let's be real. This guy killed it. And, you know, one thing that I really like is that he uses his talent, like, I don't know if creative ways is the best way to put it, but he mixes things around when he needs to.
Yes.
There have been albums we've checked out, even recently, like within the past few months, where it's like, wow, this drummer's got mega chops, but that's all we hear.
They're doing the same thing.
It's just the machine gun the entire time.
Yeah.
This drummer doesn't do that. He does turn on the machine gun at times. It does happen, but it's not always. And there's a lot of tasteful stuff in there as well. And I love that. There's so much depth in this drumming performance. Definitely steals the show.
Yeah.
But then, in terms of the performance, it's good performances from everyone. However, it's a bit hard to hear. I feel like this album has a bit of an issue with the mix. The guitars, like, it's a chuggier album than Ninja, 100%. They chug a lot more. It's a lot kind of album than Ninja was. But the guitars almost sound a little muddy. Because even when the guitars are being melodic, it's still really deep, almost to the point where it's like, what's going on here? You know, like, there are some bands that are really chuggy, but they're still clear with it because that's what they're really aiming for. They're not really doing too many melodic stuff when they're chugging.
Yeah.
But this album kind of feels like we're gonna make the chugging sound, but for every point of the album, and it kind of makes it just muddy sounding and hard to really discern the guitar work that's actually happening, which is good guitar work, it's just hard to tell. Other tracks I enjoyed. The title track is actually a song that grew on me because it just has this sick, awesome bounce to it. And I like that a lot as well. There was a point where there was kind of like a stretch of songs I was really into, and then not really it slipped on me. It was From the Inside through to Alienated. From the Inside it grew on me, and then it shrunk on me. Like I was getting more into it, digging it, it's like epic or whatever, but near the end of the week I'm just like, okay, I'm fine with it. Yeah, I wasn't really loving it anymore. But Alienated, I think, is a great way to start the second half of this album because it's just brutal, in your face, just like super duper energy. Like the songs that I added to the playlist, Black Mountain, Vultures of the North, and Alienated, love those songs. But then also came another issue I kind of felt with this album.
Okay.
The pacing was weird. Here's why.
First half, second half?
Well, you know what's funny? And I tried this out throughout the week. If you start from Alienated, go through to the end and loop back, then pretty much listen to the second half and then the first half, I feel like the pacing's better. And I think I know why. Through Time, which is the last track on the album, is this slow, big, kind of like melodic swan song to the album, right? And it stays that way. There are other songs on this album that kind of do that kind of slow thing to break up the pace, but halfway through they just turn on the machine gun and go crazy.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but when you do it multiple times on the album, it starts to mess with the pacing a bit, because then you think, where's the breather here? I get like a tiny bit of it, and then it's back to the crazy stuff again. But if you listen to second half, first half, Through Time is in the middle.
Yeah.
That is your break. And then, I mean, I guess you can kind of just still skip Descending if you want. It doesn't really need to be there.
Yeah.
And then second half starting with Black Mountain feels like an epic intro to your second half.
I see that.
So I kind of felt like I liked the experience a bit more when I listened to second half, first half.
Yep.
And so that experiment was a success, I suppose. Now, I don't really think there's like any songs that are necessarily bad. Every song is cool. I just felt that some songs just kind of there needed to be a little bit more of a break on this album, I found.
So I'm going to agree with you on a few things. Black Mountain, Vultures of North, and Alienated are the best songs on the album. That I think we both agree on, and I think a lot of people would agree as well. They're probably the heaviest songs on the album, the songs with the most energy, the songs with the best riffs, the songs with the most great, just forward-moving energy. They got the heaviest kick, just all kinds of stuff going for these three songs that I find make it more in tune with the Orbit Culture type of vibe that a lot of people really love. I found like either of those songs could have been on Amnesia and would have fit that album great, and that's a two Toe Tag album, by the way.
It is.
The rest of the album, however, I felt was a bit of a struggle for me in terms of really finding, really loving it, right? And it was one of those situations, and I've had this before on this channel while reviewing albums, where I'm not into it, but is it a me thing or is it a band thing or an album thing? So to figure that out and answer that question for myself, I go back and listen to the last album that I know I enjoyed. And if I listen to it and I'm really not feeling it, then I know I'm just not really in the mood for Orbit Culture right now. Maybe it's time to like take a break or something. But if I listen to the last album and I still like it as much as I did before, then there's a problem with this album. We got to figure out what that is. So I did that. I put on Amnesia, and it slaps. Amnesia holds up, and I loved it. And I went, okay, I know why I gave this album a toe tag, because it's so well written. It's awesome right out of the gate, and it just delivers on so many levels. This album, Descent, it fails me immediately with the intro track Descending. Now, on a first listen, I get it. It's atmospheric, it's mood setting, it's cinematic, it's a great opener. But overall, it's useless when it comes to repeat listens, and it's just a skippable track. A waste of my time, essentially. I much would have preferred if they just left it out and started with Black Mountain. That would have made this album just, when you turn it on, so much more palatable. Right? And yeah, I can easily just skip the first track, whatever.
Well, like, why do you gotta do that?
Why do I gotta do that? And I'm the kind of guy that listens to albums multiple times in a row. Like, I don't listen to an album like, okay, I'm done listening to music for today. I'll listen to it 3, 4, 5 times in a row while I'm doing things. I hear that repeat going on.
That was not me farting. That was just like my stomach making a sound.
You can cut this out, but I could. My immediate thought was did the camera catch that?
I feel like it did.
Yeah, I feel like Descending could have been left out. Start with Black Mountain. It would have been a lot more stronger of a start, in my opinion. Then you get Sorrower, which is an interesting track because it has some really cool elements, which I mentioned in our kind of first impressions blog. Has a really cool solo followed by this really cool, like, thrashy kind of section. The song gets pretty hype, but then it kind of calms down for the bridge, And, you know, it's got some dynamics. It's got some contour to it, which I think is really cool. It also introduces things like cello, some viola, some choir elements in there, which is really cool. I like when bands incorporate those things and really give a song a lot of personality, a lot of flavor, a lot of flair. My problem with the song was I liked the solo, but for some reason I kept missing it every time I listened to the song. And at one point I had to just go, you know what? Forget this. I'm gonna find this solo. So I listened to it and I'm like kind of scrubbing through. I'm like, okay, here it is finally. Like, yes, juicy solo, great solo. I think one of the things that really kind of throws me off is the placement of the solo. Generally a solo is in the bridge section of a song. Solos are basically a bridge in most cases, in a lot of cases. This is the opposite. It's like in the second act of the song. If you were to divide it into 4, for example, Act 1 would be the intro and maybe verse or whatever. Act 2, solo. Then you got Act 3 bridge and then Act 4 outro. That to me was really odd, and I felt like because of that I kept missing it through the week. I don't know about that. Isle of Fire. I like the way the song starts because it's one of the mellow songs, and it's cool because the song before, which is Alienated, is one of the most pounding songs on the album. Yeah. So you get a nice drastic contrast right there, and contrast is good. When it comes to music, contrast is really good. It's appeasing to the ear, and it keeps you from getting bored. The song picks up, has some nice mid-tempo grooves, but overall the song is just meh. And Undercity, Descent, and Through Time, which are the next 3 tracks after that, are all just flops to me. Like absolute flops. Even Descent, like, again, these aren't bad songs. These aren't like songs that are like, oh, that's horrible, I can't deal with that. But again, reverting back to Nisha, listening to the quality of those songs and the way that they build their track list and, you know, all that stuff, and then going to the last half of this album, I'm like, what were they thinking? The last half of this album, for me, tracks 7 through 10 are duds, okay? Then you got tracks 2, 3, From the Inside is also kind of meh for me, to be honest, but 2, 3, and 5 and 6 were all pretty good songs, I would say. Did any of them go on my playlist? Unfortunately not. I didn't like any of them enough to really add to the playlist. So, I mean, we mentioned the drumming already. I'm just going to say it again. The highlight of this album is the drumming. It reminded me of Raymond Herrera from Fear Factory, the style of drumming, a lot of ways. Not really the sound, because it doesn't have that industrial kind of machinery sound to it, but just the style of it. I was getting Herrera vibes from it.
I can see where you're coming from with that.
I was getting Herrera vibes. So, and that's a compliment.
It is.
Raymond Herrera's legend. So, yeah, I feel like this band, for me, and I'm going to rustle some feathers, because some people think this is their best album, and it's a huge step up from Nisha and stuff like that.
It's a popular band in general.
For me, this was a step down from Nisha. So, I tried my best to really get into it and really like it, because I want to come here and I want to go, this is awesome, you guys, oh my god, listen to this, listen to that, this part was awesome, that part was awesome, but I struggled, so it is what it is.
With that, let's get to ratings, and I suppose I'll rate this album first. Now, we expressed some of our issues that we had with this album. Yes, I still think it's a very strong album. Like, I didn't really come to dislike it near the end of the week. I didn't feel as strongly towards it as I did when I first heard it, but there's still great moments, great performances. Overall, it's really strong. And I did listen to Nisha again as well. I listened to them both back to back, and I feel like Nisha is a bit more well-rounded and a bit better paced of an album. So this album, I'm going to give it a 7. It's really close to a toe tag. For reference, if you're unaware, a toe tag is 8 or higher.
Right.
So this one's really close, and it's a strong album. Not quite as good as Nisha, but there's still some bangers in this album.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think this is a strong album. I think this is a strong band that made a pretty weak album, to be honest. I feel like I hold this band to a higher standard because of their previous work, and it left me a bit disappointed. So as far as my rating goes, the way I'm rating it is basically based on I like about half the tracks. The other half I find are very underwhelming, but even the tracks I like, I don't love. So it's going to get a 4.5 from me, which is an unfortunate rating because I was really looking forward to this. We were both pretty hyped for Descent, going into it, but that's my feelings on it, so that's what it gets, 4.5.
We're having a 4.5 from Vile Self and a 7 from myself, and that's all we got for you guys today. Remember to like this video if you liked it. Tell us comments below. What do you think of this album? Is it better or worse than Ninja? What are your favorite tracks? Is there anything you didn't like? We love to hear what you guys have to say, and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
And keep the horns up.